So I get asked all the time, what is my training routine? So in this episode, I wanted to do a really short breakdown of exactly what my new and current training routine is to stay ripped, perform better, and more importantly, to manage my energy. Because energy for me, as I've evolved into the entrepreneur world and got a beautiful personal relationship now, has become so much more valuable to me in the last 5-6 years in particular, but certainly having turned 40 last year. I'm sure you relate to this if you run a business and you've got a partner and you've got kids yet, which I don't have just now, but would love to, of course, in the future. You'll relate that there's lots of things you need to do and lots of people you need to think of, make decisions for and with in a week. And it can really, really, really test your energy. So for me, training for me isn't just about how I look, although it's important. How I structure my training is absolutely pivotal in the energy and the confidence I have, not just in the gym and on a beach, but how I perform in business and who I'm trying to be and give in my relationships. And I just think a lot of people overcomplicate their training routine or simply just don't know what to do or don't know how to evolve from their 20s and 30s. The training routine I'm going to share with you today is worlds apart from where it was in my 20s and in my 30s. Why? I think in my 20s, all I cared about was how I looked because it was riddled with insecurity. Literally. So it was all the bro splits. I spoke about this before. Chest day, back day, leg day, hamstring day, arm day, right? And I'm sure as you found out, that routine is very hard to sustain. And in my opinion, it's nowhere near as efficient and doesn't give you anywhere near the same return on investment of time, money, hard work that the one I'm going to share with you today, I believe would bring. Especially if you want to tick all the boxes. Clients invest in Built to Last because they want to be strong, they want to have muscles, they want to move well. A lot of them want to get out of pain, but they also want a healthy heart and they want to be healthy with their internal health metrics, your testosterone levels, cholesterol levels, all these different things. Now, when you are thinking about your training routine, of course you have to have goals or it's very hard to sustain. My number one goal outside of performance is to stay in shape year round, irrelevant of the challenges, the curveballs, the obstacles I face. It's as simple as that. I pride myself on consistency, and that's what people want inside Built to Last. But alongside that, more recently, I'd say in the last 6 to 12 months, and certainly this year, I have dipped my toe in high rocks competitions, a couple, albeit not overly successful just yet. Had a cramp at the first one, right? Probably went into that a little bit earlier than my body was physically ready and went into the last one injured. But High Rocks still is a competition that I want to dip my toe in and maybe explore other competitions also. So, my current training routine. Monday, I do a full body strength and power workout, where it is a mixture of all of the major movement patterns, where I'm lifting lower reps. And what I mean by lower reps, anywhere from 6 to 7 reps or lower, moving big weights, feeling strong, building power, which I believe has a massive carryover into the other areas of training. And I think as a man as well, not just as a man, but whether you're a man or woman, nothing makes you feel better than feeling strong. It affects your mood and it certainly affects your quality of movement. I don't believe also that you can optimize muscular benefits or muscular hypertrophy, if you're not strong. And I think as we age, the benefits of strength and feeling and being powerful go far beyond helping you look good. So for me, strength and power is the core foundation at which everything else can flourish. You'll run faster, your body's more resilient, you're more likely to stay out of pain if your body's strong. So I do a full body strength and power session on a Monday, and I supplement that also with a 10-minute high intensity cardio session. And that could be some erg work, your ski ergs, your rows. It could be some high rock specific movements. Could be a little bit of plyometrics. Could be some interval sprints. But generally speaking, at the minute, that is a 10-minute max cardio finisher because my time is precious just now. You can do things like EMOMs, like every minute on the minute, where you might do a certain amount of calories or rows within a certain minute, then move on to the next minute on a different station. Anything that's sort of work-rest ratio. Or you can even do things like a 10-minute AMRAP, which is 10 minutes, as many rounds as possible, on a couple of stations. So it could be a ski erg for 10 cows, it could be a row, 10 cows into, 20 wall balls, as many rounds as possible in 20 minutes. But I look at that additional 10 minutes cardio as it's just getting my heart rate up and it's getting me fitter in a short space of time after my weights. Now, you can split these, but I don't train. It's very rare I train twice a day just because of my work schedule and obviously my personal commitments. Tuesday, and when I say Tuesday, my weeks are sometimes compromised with travel. The way I would look at what I'm going through today is, say if I said Monday, look at that as day one, Tuesday being day two. Tuesday for me, or day two, is an interval track session. I love running it on the track, or it could be a treadmill session if that doesn't complement my day. I don't have the time to go to a track, and I need to get it done in the gym. So what I mean by interval track or treadmill session, that is where I could be doing any distance on a treadmill, such as 400 meters, 600, 800, 1,000, maybe up to 1,200 tops, where I'm doing a set amount of interval runs. It could be anywhere from 4 or 5 up to maybe 8 to 10 max, where I'm running at a certain distance as fast as I can, then having a rest period. And at the minute, it's around 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute rest period, and then I'm running as fast as I can for that given distance, then trying to hold my pace at that given distance across the number of rounds during that session. But the intention with that session is to literally build up my pace, because especially doing the high rocks is, and outside of the high rocks element, I want to be as fit as I possibly can, because I think there's so much carryover from being physically fit to mental performance in business, emotional confidence, even with things like sales and influence on team. Because don't forget, everything in business and in life really is a form of influence. If you want to get a certain outcome from your children, your missus, your prospect, your lead, or a team member, it's a form of influence. And I think if you're feeling emotionally and mentally fit, then you're more likely to get people to believe what you say and what you want them to do, and more importantly, what you want them to feel. Wednesday for me is a total rest of hard training on the central nervous system. And this is where I've switched up the days I'm training and pushing hard. I think after 2 hard sessions, especially being 40, personally for me, my body feels like it needs a rest and to back off. And I think this is something that's bit me in the arse in the past, where you're literally trying to put foot to the floor too many days back to back, and you end up training at around 75% of probably your full potential in your given sessions. So on that Wednesday, or day 3, however you want to look at it, I love doing a hot and cold therapy session. Amazing for recovery, amazing for just keeping the mind still. Great physical benefits, of course, too. Great stress management and benefits too also. If I didn't do a hot and cold, Other great things that are amazing to do would be things like a Pilates session, a corrective exercise or mobility session. You could even see or sometimes I do, you might see a massage therapist, an osteopath, a physio, especially if you've got some wear and tear on the body. And even though these things might be boring or something you don't want to do sometimes, they're going to allow you to recharge the batteries to then perform optimally or somewhere near optimally on the harder sessions. And this has been great sort of testing period the last sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months of knowing at this stage of my life what my body can or can't do, especially when you've got the emotional and the mental demands of being in relationships and running businesses, etc. Thursday or day 4 is another full body training session, and that is generally centered around more strength work, hypertrophy work, and muscular endurance work. So I love having a bit of a hybrid approach in that session of reps and tempos. So not only am I hitting all the different movement patterns, I'm also hitting the different rep stimuluses and different tempos, which I'm a huge fan of playing around with. Why is that? I believe if you don't want to be big and bulky, but you want to be strong, fit, fast, powerful, and mobile, you have to play around with rep ranges, rest periods, tempos, especially the longer you've been training. And for me, as I'm only doing sort of 2 to 3 lifting sessions now or heavier loads, I'm trying to get more bang for my buck from those lifting sessions. So being really, really specific with certain tempos and rest periods and rep ranges allows you to do that. And especially when time is precious, doing a full body training session the way I structure and program them gives you a bigger return on investment from that training session. Especially if you are like me and you're trying to package weights, cardio, maybe some Pilates, maybe some hot and cold and massages, etc. There's a lot to pack in a week, especially if you've only got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours to train with. So I do full body training session on a Thursday. And then what I do, depending on how my body feels on top of that, is a tempo running based session. So what I mean by that is where you're not quite at 100% in terms of best effort. You're not aiming to hit your max heart rate, but you might be doing something like, I don't know, a 20-minute run where you're running at around 8 out of 10 intensity for 3 minutes, then you're backing off to around a 6 out of 10 intensity for 2 minutes, and you complete that you continue that for a total of 20 minutes. So it's a little bit like fartlek training where you're pushing and you're backing off. But it's fantastic, especially if you're doing things like high rocks, to vary the pace at which your legs are running so you don't become one-paced and leggy, as I know that is definitely possible if all you're doing is running all the time at the same pace. It gives you that change of gears. And also it's amazing for fat burning and just overall conditioning. But I would do 20 to 25 minutes max, especially with time being so precious and if you're lifting and doing cardio in the same session. Friday for me or day 5 is a zone 2, and that could be 60 to 90 minutes max, literally just easy run. And what I love to do on my zone 2s is nasal breathe. I've brought in nasal breathing after working with someone who's like a one-to-one sports breathing specialist, Louise Archer. She's been absolutely fantastic to work with. And she has really opened my eyes up to the power of nasal breathing, not only when you're sleeping or maybe you're just doing day-to-day activities, but if you can nasal breathe on at least one run a week, that really, really, really has enormous benefits on your physical fitness, on your diaphragm, your ability to recover quicker after periods of higher heart rate, for example. So say, for example, if you are pushing hard in a session with weights or cardio or on your high rocks, especially if you're doing things like doubles, it's not just about how hard you can push your heart rate. It's how quickly can you bring your heart rate down so you can then perform and push even harder on your next hard effort of exercise, whether it's weights or cardio. So I like to do that zone 2 nasal breathing. And it is, for me, a great test of mental strength. So although your heart rate isn't too high, what the zone 2 nasal breathing does, it really tests your mind and your discipline to do something for an extended period of time that you probably don't want to do. Because the first time I did a nasal breathing run at zone 2, I was absolutely desperate to mouth breathe. But just by persevering and slowing the pace down of my zone 2s, because obviously it's very logical that you're going to run faster if you're going to mouth breathe, but just from slowing the pace down initially on my nasal breathing on my zone 2s, over time, I built up back to the same pace that I was mouth breathing, but with nasal breathing. So then what that does is, when you then take the nasal breathing away on your faster runs, or say if you did a 5K nasal breathing or 10K nasal breathing, and then you try to do that 10K a few weeks later, not nasal breathing, you're going to run faster. And Saturday or day 6 is we call it like a high rocks conditioning session, where it's a mixture of lifting, heavy sled pulls, your lunges, etc., mixed in with some cardio, with some conditioning, with your ergs, your high rock specific movements. And these are absolutely disgusting. But there's no way I'd be able to maximize the benefits of my performance in the compromised running, for example, which is also in these sessions, or push the sled, with max weight and often above competition weights, if I didn't have the zone 2 the day before. Now, look, anyone who's done a high rocks will probably relate that you need to get used to not running all the time, feeling perfect and not feeling 100% all the time. I totally get that. But equally as well, you can box a lot cleverer with the way you structure your training routine if you are going from hard day to easier day. And I just think people are falling into the trap, and I've done this before, that their easy days become medium to hard days, and your hard days can be sort of medium hard days, and you're in no man's land, or as they call it, the grey area. So for me, doing that Saturday sort of high rocks conditioning session, it's a great way to end your training week. You can sort of throw it all down. You create enormous amounts of output, which guess what means you can eat more food. And Sunday for me, the last day, is when I like to have a total rest, where I just walk at most, get my steps in, get some fresh air. And I love, where possible, where logistics allow, to do a hot and cold therapy. So summary of that is, if you look at my current training week, I'm actually doing 1, 2, 3. I'm doing 4 harder training sessions with 2 full body sessions, 3 maybe if you class the high reps conditioning session, and 1 interval session, which is disgusting and probably the one I get most nervous with, especially if I do it on a track because it's so exhausting. But then around that, I'm having 3 days which are easy days, which many years ago I certainly wouldn't have done. It would have been, I've got to train hard, balls to the wall for 6 days. Now, if you love doing that, that's okay, and it's working for you, brilliant. But if it's not, and you know that you're in no man's land with your training, try fluctuating and having a bit more of an equal mix of hard and easy days, and watch how much better you perform and how much more you protect your nervous systems, your parasympathetic nervous system, which is, the one that you should be respecting more. And I know this has bit me in the arse many, many times, in day-to-day life, just because you feel cooked, you feel battered, you feel run down, you feel on the verge of burnout. And if you're not taking your rest days, you're not having your back off days, at some point it will bite you in the arse in your work performance and your performance in the gym. And then the only other thing, even though it's not training related, I would say I've gone back to or added into my sort of overall routine, even though it's not training related, is I've gone back to journaling and breathing, closing my eyes for a few minutes in the morning. I've gone back to journaling. Why? It just makes me present. It helps my energy management, helps set intention for the day, and just sort of habit stacking that with some breathing, just closing my eyes, really helps control my mind before I go into my day. And if my mind is feeling empowered, in control for the day, then I've noticed enormous benefits in my performance in the gym. I've noticed significantly more focus in my work day and output for the day. So if, just to end this podcast, you would like some examples of how I structure my sort of full body sessions, how I structure an interval session, how I'd structure anything you've heard me go through today, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I can send you some examples on how I train and how we typically train our clients to perform at their absolute best every week, every month of every year around work. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.